Hi, I'm Jermaine Wills and I'm an MA student studying at Southampton Solent University. Welcome to the behind the scenes of my most recent short film, To Be Frank. The film tackles themes of sacrifice and transformation with focus on love, loss and isolation, which are all obstacles that the lead character Frank must overcome. Frank is forced to relive the memories of his past after he loses someone close to him. Without realising, he finds himself on a spiritual journey, making amends for his past mistakes on his pursuit to happiness. The reason for making the film was to attempt a heartwarming piece that may soothe or inspire people that have lost someone close and are struggling to let go of something in their lives. I felt it is something that affects all of us at different stages in our lives, but it's how we deal with this which is a question in the film. I wanted to create something that would instantly connect with people, so used themes that most people could relate to. It's not just a film about love and loss, however, it's also about challenging inner thoughts and regrets. As people, we often feel or think a certain way but don't always want to talk about it. Frank's character was created so that these themes could be tackled in the film. Frank hits a life wall where he must let go of his dishonest past in order to move forward and be free and happy with who he is as a person. When creating the script, I was careful in how I wrote the dialogue scenes as to not give too much of Frank's past away too early. I wanted to build empathy at the moments when Frank is reminiscing or thinking about the times he would change if he could go back and do it all again. This was an attempt at allowing the audience to embark on this journey with Frank as he revealed his past to them. Once the script was written, I shared it with some other writers and collaborators who shared their thoughts. I got a crew together and the development went from there, really. I have worked on short films before, but this time round I really wanted to build a believable character, and not only that, also I wanted to have depth to the story with a similar approach to what you would find in a lot of independent films. I started watching films like Lost in Translation and Garden State, where the story strongly focuses around a character's emotional connection within the world around them. Watching films really started to give me ideas for how I could approach my own film in terms of character, framing and the overall mise-en-scène. I wanted to create a world surrounding the actor, however, with that said, what was more important was that the main focus was on the character and what he was going through. When watching Garden State, I realised it's not really a film about New Jersey, but about the lead character's mind state. Andrew Largeman, played by Zach Braff, who also directs the film, he starts a fresh life and builds new friendships without the influence of antidepressants in his life. I liked how the lead character wasn't your typical hegemonic male, and that he was more fragile and a bit more complex. There was a lot more going on in terms of his personality. Sofia Coppola's Lost in Translation is a personal portrait of love, relationships and isolation, set in the backdrop of Tokyo. What was really useful when watching Lost in Translation was how it invites the viewer to feel the character's emotions, allowing the audience to really imagine what they would do in their situation. It was really useful in allowing me to think about how I would approach the characters in the film. What I really liked about the films was the realism and depth to the narrative. I felt that I went away thinking about how they had a powerful and impactful ending without all of the action and drama that you might usually see in your typical Hollywood movie. Soon after writing, I was drawing up storyboards and shot lists which were really good in terms of structuring for the film. It was also good to share with the crew and obviously my actor, so that we were all on the same page when it comes to shooting day. Although, as Roger Deakins once said, every shot I have ever made has been a compromise in some way. No image has ever been as good as the one I envisioned in my mind's eye. So I know that sometimes a well-intended vision can also get lost in the development of a production. So I tried very hard not to fall in that trap where you end up with something that was not your vision, something completely different. Working on previous short films where I have written, produced and directed, I have fallen into that trap where balancing the responsibilities is not always easy. This is why I really wanted to plan out everything this time around, make sure I had everything I needed when it comes to the shoot. My main passions lie with cinematography, so I really enjoy thinking about how a production will come together and how it will look. But it is very different when you are directing a shoot and are responsible for everyone on that shoot looking at you for guidance. However, I had a very motivated and competent crew, so I was confident it would all be fine when it comes to shooting day. I started looking into possible locations and began scouting with my director of photography. This helped us build a good idea for the space we would be working with, and it also helped us in sharing the vision for the project, trying to get it as close to the script as possible. For the walking scene, it needed to appear like Frank had walked some distance to his destination, so we needed several suitable exterior locations, and it meant the cast and crew would be on the move when it came to shooting day. You know, lots of up and go moving equipment and making sure we were sticking to the schedule. Luckily, the location I found had the perfect footpath through a meadow with a variety of scenery around it, and it was only 5 minutes away from the next location at the bridge where Frank would arrive at the end of the scene. So that was really good to find. A problem we ran into right away was the fact that we were next to a busy road, so I had to plan ahead to ensure that we had all of the right equipment for the shoot, so we were able to capture the sound that we really needed without the background noise as well. When it came to casting the lead role, I was very fortunate to have a collaborator, Ollie Perring, approach me and ask if he could play the role. And he looked perfect for it, so I considered it straight away. And he said he really enjoyed the script as well. I felt he could really bring that emotional connection to the performance that I was seeking. I have worked with Ollie before in previous short films, and I felt he was a strong enough actor for the role. And soon after I gave Ollie the role, we started arranging rehearsals, and I'm glad I did, because when it came to shooting day, Ollie gave a great performance. He was so into the character that he was even able to cry on set, and although it was written into the script for him to do that, I wasn't so sure I was going to be able to achieve that on the day. So to have genuine tears was a blessing. I think it's always a rare talent to be able to cry on demand, so I was very happy indeed that we were able to capture the performance. I hope that viewers will be able to connect with his character the way I did when they watched the film. The dialogue in this particular scene is all Frank, but he's talking as though there is someone there with him when he is in fact alone. The reason for this was to help show that he was isolated and he had been struggling to let out everything he's been sort of holding on to. It also helps to raise awareness to the viewer that whoever Frank is talking to is no longer around. I wanted to create tension in the pauses for a more dramatic effect. I felt this helped to portray the inner conflict of the character as Frank releases the ashes over the river. This was also a representation of Frank letting go of his past. In terms of costume and props, I went with a casual open shirted look to imply that the season was warm. I needed a wooden box and a rucksack, which were important as Frank would actually engage in conversation with them. This was to give a sense of mystery to Frank's character, encouraging the viewer to wonder about who it is he's actually talking to. The ashes were in fact rock dust, which was the closest thing that I could buy that resembled something like ashes, you know. And it was also environmentally friendly to use as well, so that was good. If I were to explore the film fully, we would find that Frank starts to make amends, makes new friendships, finds a new love. However, this doesn't necessarily mean that his mind will not always be free from his past entirely, and there is a timeless connection which binds him with that. So it would not suggest that Frank won't ever have future struggles ahead. It would merely suggest that he's got past that stage of his life. So everything we do or experience forever becomes a part of us and shapes who we become. So the film was written in order to share the message that sometimes life brings new challenges, where we may face obstacles, but it's how we choose to deal with them that really matters. This would be where I would end the story, the realisation point that if you don't like who you are, you don't like what it is you're doing, then you can always just put that aside and try something else, you know. So yeah, I was really happy actually. The shoot went surprisingly well, considering that we were on an exterior shoot. So luckily the weather was on our side, and none of us got caught in any rain, which was nice. It was a relaxed shoot where I hope the cast and crew enjoyed themselves. I know I did. There were problems when it came to shooting day, which we didn't expect, and therefore we had to be very careful at points. Due to being outside and using the natural light, clouds would sometimes block the sun, and this would affect the lighting of certain shots. Another problem we faced was a herd of cows on the walkway we needed to cross, and there was actually no other way around. Luckily the crew remained calm, and eventually the cows just moved aside and we could get on past. But that was something we definitely didn't expect. Writing, producing and directing was definitely really fun, and it was really challenging. As a cinematographer, I'm just used to thinking about how the project is going to look and doing what I can to achieve a vision. But when you're directing, I feel, you know, I needed to be super aware of everything that was happening on set. Sometimes it could be a little overwhelming, but at the same time it was nice to step out of my comfort zone. I'm keen to learn all the processes of filmmaking, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to do it. So it was actually really nice. I've definitely realised that filmmaking is a collaborative process and you wouldn't be able to do it on your own. So I was really thankful to have a crew which all knew what was happening on set. They all knew where they needed to be, what they should be doing. They're all very patient and keen to get the job done, which was amazing. So I owe them all one for being so great when it comes to shooting day. It was good fun, but it wasn't always easy. The actor is always looking to you to make sure what they're doing is good, and then you're looking at your crew to make sure that they're on the same page as you and that you're all you know, attempting to reach the same vision. So it taught me a valuable lesson that having a crew members with individual roles really benefits the shoots and benefits the director, as they can rely on the fact that everyone on board is focused on achieving your vision. Moving forward, I feel I could improve with some aspects with the sound. It did become evident when I got into the editing process that some of the sound was almost unusable due to the amount of distortion and traffic on the roads. Luckily I was able to bring the levels down in Final Cut to make it a bit better, but it wasn't perfect. So ideally I would go with a different approach in the future. So I think it'd only be fair to say that I could have maybe communicated with the crew a bit better to ensure that I'm getting what I set out to achieve. I did check some of the sound files with my sound recordist on shooting day, which were all fine. However, I didn't check all of the audio. And for some of the takes where we had switched positions, it was a lot less clear, especially on the scenes of dialogue when Frank is talking. But unfortunately this was found out when it comes to post-production, and that stage is about really dealing with what you've got and trying to make it the best you can. If I had more time, I would probably go back and I would recapture that all again. The storyboard and shot list were really useful on the shoot, and also really useful when it comes to the editing process, as it gave a sort of frame of reference to how I had originally planned to structure the story. It was really useful when thinking about the more personal scenes where Frank reveals a bit more about himself and his past. I used closer framing during the dialogue so that all the emotion and expression could be witnessed by the viewer as Frank's letting go of his past and his worries. I really wanted the audience to be able to feel and relate to the character. In future I'd definitely like to have another attempt at script writing and definitely directing as well. I really enjoyed producing and directing, however my passions still lie with cinematography. I feel I have learned from this unit and the other units on the course, which have really helped me become a better filmmaker overall, and for that I'm really happy.